During my confinement, my husband sneered, "Whoever gave birth to the child takes care of it." I didn't say anything, just stared at him. On the third day, I took the baby back to my parents' home. The baby's household registration was directly registered at my parents' home. When he called to question me, I only replied with 4 words. Those 4 words silenced him completely. Even the expensive curtains in the postpartum center couldn't block the 3 o'clock sun. The light pierced through my thin eyelids, making me feel dizzy. The room was kept at a constant 26 degrees Celsius, the most comfortable temperature for the human body, but I felt a draft in my bones, a constant chill. The C-section wound was still aching faintly, as if a rough hemp rope was repeatedly pulling inside my lower abdomen. But this pain was far less than the desolation in my heart. The door was pushed open. Lu Ming walked in, his expensive leather shoes making dull and harsh sounds on the smooth floor. His hands were empty, with no black-bone chicken soup that my mother kept talking about, nor any tonics. He didn't even glance at me first, his eyes immediately fixed on the phone he always held in his hand. I looked at him, this man who had shared my bed for 3 years. His profile looked a little blurry in the sunlight, his jawline was still distinct, but his face was full of impatience and weariness. He finally glanced at the baby in the cradle, his eyes as if he was looking at an object that had nothing to do with him, unfamiliar and indifferent. Wah, the baby seemed to sense something and suddenly started crying at the top of its lungs. The sound was sharp, piercing the hypocritical silence in the room. I struggled to sit up, and a tearing pain immediately shot through my C-section wound, causing cold sweat to break out instantly. Lu Ming's eyebrows furrowed into a knot. "So noisy," he muttered under his breath, and those 2 words were like poison-laced ice shards, accurately piercing my heart. Ignoring him, I endured the pain and used all my strength to turn sideways, gently patting the baby's back, humming a tuneless song in a hoarse voice. And what about him? He sat comfortably on the sofa, crossed his legs, and lowered his head to play with his phone. The light from the screen reflected on his face, changing unpredictably. My exhaustion, my pain, my dishevelment, in his eyes, seemed like a silent film that had nothing to do with him. Only the baby's suppressed sobs and my heavy heartbeat remained in the room. The air was so oppressive that I couldn't breathe. "Lu Ming." I spoke, my voice as dry as sandpaper. "Can you pour me a glass of water? I can't reach it." He didn't even lift his head, his fingers flying across the screen, the sound of the game slaughtering coming from the screen, out of place in this supposed-to-be warm maternity room. He didn't even bother to utter an just snorted coldly from his throat. "Whoever gave birth to the child takes care of it." The voice was not loud, light but like a scalpel, it accurately dissected my last illusion of warmth towards him, revealing the bloody reality inside. My body stiffened suddenly. I slowly raised my head and stared at him intently. He finally sensed my gaze, his eyes flickered, but he stubbornly stared at the phone screen, pretending nothing had happened. I didn't cry, nor did I hysterically question him. Tears at this moment are the cheapest weapon and the most powerless expression. I just looked at him, his eyes, once filled with love, now seemed to have been doused with a basin of ice water, frozen solid inside and out. I could clearly feel something in my heart shatter at that moment, shatter into pieces, leaving not even a scrap behind. At the same time, something else, like a seed buried in frozen soil, quietly broke through the ground, with a reckless and fierce determination, beginning to grow wildly. My mom said that women have to take care of their own babies during postpartum confinement, it's good for their recovery. Her health isn't good, as you know. He finally deigned to put down his phone, stood up, and dropped this light and airy explanation. I had heard this rhetoric countless times before marriage, it was his and his mother's universal excuse to shirk all family responsibilities. I used to think it was filial piety, but now I understand that it was just extreme selfishness. The company has an urgent meeting, I have to go. He fled as if escaping, hurriedly left this place that made him irritable, leaving me to face the crying child again, and a room of coldness and despair. I hugged the soft and fragile little life in my arms, and tears finally slid down silently, the hot liquid hitting the baby's small swaddling clothes, quickly cooling down. But my eyes, at that moment, became more clear and firm than ever before. This marriage is dead. The moment he said those words, he personally carried out the death sentence. And I was the only, clear-headed witness. It was late at night, and the postpartum center was so quiet that you could hear your own heartbeat. I didn't sleep, I stared at the ceiling with my eyes open. Then, I picked up my phone. My fingertips trembled on the cold screen, typing out the search terms word by word. Postpartum depression, divorce, property division. Newborn household registration, following the mother. Unilateral divorce lawsuit, custody. The light from the screen illuminated my pale face, and also illuminated the crazy and resolute plan that was quietly taking shape in my eyes. Lu Ming, do you think this is just an ordinary argument? No. This is a trial. The next day, Lu Ming didn't show up. No phone call, no message, as if me and the child had evaporated from his world. I wasn't surprised at all. His world only contains himself. In the morning, my mother, Chen Fong, called, her voice full of concern. Cece, how are you feeling today? Does the wound still hurt? Is the baby being good? Hearing the familiar voice on the other end of the phone, my nose twitched, and I almost couldn't hold back. But I took a deep breath and suppressed all my emotions. Mom, I'm fine, it's just that the postpartum center is a bit stuffy, and I'm not used to it. My tone was calm, and I didn't mention Lu Ming at all. Now is not the time. I can't let my mom worry, let alone let her impulsively confront Lu Ming. That would only make things worse. What I want is not an ugly quarrel, but a beautiful checkmate. After hanging up the phone, I began to calmly review the situation. I scrolled through Lu Ming's WeChat moments. Late last night, he was out singing karaoke with friends, captioning it "Long Lost Freedom." Freedom? So, my birth and our child's birth were a cage to him. I opened his spending records. We have a family shared account. These past few days, he's either been whining and dining friends at fancy restaurants or making large in-game purchases, with not a single expense related to me or our child. This is all evidence. I screenshotted every transaction record and saved them into a classified folder named Executioner. Then, I called a lawyer friend. Hi, Zhang, I'd like to ask about divorce and child custody. On the other end of the phone, my friend keenly sensed something was up, but she was professional and didn't ask too much, simply clearly explaining all the legal procedures. If the child is under 1 year old, as long as you can prove the man is at fault, such as through emotional abuse or failure to fulfill parental responsibilities, the court will prioritize the mother when deciding custody. As for the household registration, newborns can be registered under the father or the mother. As long as the procedures are complete, it can absolutely be registered under you or your mother's household registration. Okay, I understand. Getting that affirmative answer made the heaviest stone in my heart fall to the ground. Next, execution. I began to organize my belongings, bank cards, salary slips, and proof of prenuptial property my parents bought for me. I even dug out the electronic version of our prenuptial agreement. Lu Ming had signed this agreement to show his love for me, stipulating that each party's premarital property would remain independent. He probably never thought that this document, which he used to prove his true love, would become the weapon used to dismantle his illusions. The nurse at the postpartum center knocked and came in. Seeing my uneasy expression and the lingering shadows in my eyes, she asked me with concern if I was feeling down. MS. Lynn, many new mothers experience mood swings. It's normal. Would you like us to arrange for a psychologist to talk to you? I forced a stiff smile and shook my head. Thank you, that won't be necessary. I'm just a little tired. I don't need psychological counseling. I am clearer than ever. On the third morning, the sky outside the window was just barely starting to lighten. Lu Ming still hadn't appeared. I looked at the sleeping baby in the bassinet, her little face rosy and her breathing even. My heart was half filled with this soft life, and the other half was as hard as iron. I picked up my phone and called my mom. Mom, can you come pick me up now? My tone was calm, but with an undeniable firmness. I want to go home for a few days. It's too stuffy in the postpartum center, and I'm not feeling well. What's wrong, Cece? Did you quarrel with Lu Ming? My mom knows me too well, she could hear the something was off in my voice. No, I just miss you. I didn't explain further. Okay, Mom will be right there. You wait for me. My mom didn't press me, she always believes in me and supports me unconditionally. I quickly packed all my and the baby's things, my clothes, the baby's bottles, diapers, little clothes. Everything. Everything that's mine, I'm taking. Everything that's his, I'm leaving behind. Finally, my gaze fell on the bedside table. Our wedding rings were there, the not too big, not too small diamond sparkling with a cold light in the morning sun. I reached out, took it off, and gently placed it in the very center of the bedside table. Like a period, declaring the end of a relationship. When my mom arrived, I was holding the baby, standing at the door waiting for her. When she saw my pale face and the big and small suitcases at my feet, her eyes immediately turned red. Cece. She looked at me with heartache, 1,000 words stuck in her throat. Holding the baby, I met my mom's worried gaze and said clearly, word by word, Mom, I want to register the baby's household registration under our family. My mom's body visibly jolted, and she looked at me in shock. But she didn't ask why, nor did she try to dissuade me. She just stepped forward, hugged me and my grandson tightly, using her warm body to give me the most solid strength. Okay. She said in a hoarse voice. Mom will listen to you. At that moment, I finally felt alive again. Back at my parents' house, the familiar aroma of food instantly enveloped me. My mom made chicken soup, and the warm aroma dispelled the coldness that had been accumulating in my heart for days. There is no expensive but cold refinement of a postpartum center here, only the most simple comforts of home. Here, I feel like a loved daughter, a new mother who needs to be cared for, rather than a despised baby-making machine. My mom took care of me and the baby with great care. Her eyes were full of heartache when she looked at me, but she never mentioned Lu Ming. She knows that what I need is support, not questioning. This tacit understanding and consideration is something Lu Ming can never give. The day after settling down, I went to the household registration center with my mom. I brought all the necessary documents, my household registration booklet, ID card, and the baby's birth certificate. The police officer processing the paperwork looked at the documents and then at me. Where's the child's father? Does he agree? My mom immediately stepped forward, shielding me behind her, her tone neither humble nor arrogant. Officer, the law stipulates that a newborn's household registration can follow either the father or the mother. We have all the necessary documents and meet the requirements. My mom is a retired teacher, a woman of reason her whole life, and her presence is calm and steady. The police officer glanced at us, asked no further questions, and stamped the document with official efficiency. A week later, the new household registration booklet arrived. I opened to that page, and in the householder section, was my mother, Chen Fong's, name. In the relationship to householder section, next to my daughter's name, were clearly printed the words, granddaughter. I repeatedly traced the new characters with my fingertips, my heart filled with a mix of emotions. There was relief at securing a future for my child, a complete farewell to that past marriage, and a calm acceptance of the storm to come. Lu Ming, didn't you say whoever gives birth is responsible for raising the child? Good. Now, this child, legally speaking, has absolutely no connection with your Lu family. Lu Ming finally realized something was wrong, belatedly. Initially, he probably thought I was just throwing a tantrum and had gone back to my parents' home, and that I would return after a few days of being difficult. After all, in countless past arguments, I was always the first to give in. But 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. I didn't contact him, and I hung up directly on his calls. He began to feel a sense of unease. He called my mother. My mother answered, her tone as cold as if she were speaking to a stranger. Lin, she and the child are doing well, they're with me, no need for you to worry. She hung up immediately after speaking. Lu Ming was finally enraged. He probably felt his authority had been challenged like never before. His phone call came again, and this time, I answered. I was waiting for him to come knocking on my door himself. Lin Shi. The moment the call connected, his questioning voice, suppressed with anger, exploded from the receiver. What do you mean by this? Playing disappearing games? Where's the child? Where did you take my child? My child? Listening to his self-righteous "my child," I felt incredibly sarcastic. My voice was as calm as still water, without a trace of ripple. The child is with me, and she's doing very well. He was completely ignited by my detached tone. Are you thinking about divorce? Let me tell you, Lin Shi, don't bite the hand that feeds you. The child is from our Lu family, you think you can just take her away? No way. What about the household registration? Did you register the child's hukou? Where is it registered? His voice grew louder and louder, filled with threats and an unyielding arrogance. I took a deep breath, walked to the window, and looked at the children playing freely below. Then, I spoke into the receiver, with a condemnatory, indifferent, and resolute tone, word by word, clearly replying, "You are out of the game." On the other end of the phone, Lu Ming's roar stopped abruptly. As if someone had suddenly grabbed his throat, all the sound was stuck in his throat. All I could hear was his breathing, which had become extremely heavy due to shock and anger. Again and again, like a dying, trapped beast. I didn't give him any time to react. Having said those 4 words, I hung up the phone decisively, and then, I blacklisted his number, along with the numbers of his entire family. The world was now at peace. I looked at the phone screen, my face devoid of any expression. Lu Ming, don't you like playing games? Now, let me tell you, in this game called family, you have been forcibly kicked out by the system. Game over. Lu Ming was stunned by those 4 words. He had probably lived for 32 years and never imagined that Lin Shi, who had always been gentle and tolerant, would use such a drastic way to give him a fatal blow. He frantically called me back, only to hear the cold system prompt. The user you are calling is busy. He rushed back to our so-called home in a fit of pique. Pushing open the door, he was greeted by an empty closet and a neatly tidied dressing table. All traces of me had been erased. Only the wedding ring, abandoned on the bedside table, gleamed with mockery in the dim light. He then realized that I wasn't just throwing a tantrum. I was serious. Panic began to wrap around his heart like vines. He immediately called his mother, the Lu mother who had taught him during my postpartum confinement that women should take care of their own children. When Lu mother heard that I had not only taken the child away but had also become unreachable, she immediately exploded. This Lin Shi. She's really gone too far. She can just take away our Lu family's grandson? And even transfer the household registration? What does she want to do? Lu Ming, are you even a man? Go and get her back for me. I could imagine Lu mother's screams even from miles away. In their eyes, I, and the child I risked my life to give birth to, were merely their Lu family's private property. Urged on by Lu mother, Lu Ming, with his mother in tow, charged to my parents' building like two enraged bulls. They probably thought that as long as they put on a show, I would obediently take the child and go back with them. Unfortunately, they miscalculated. My mother had anticipated this and calmly stood in front of the door, like an unshakable mountain. Mother-in-law, Lu Ming, what are you doing? When Lu mother saw my mother's stance, she immediately started her shrewish routine. What are we doing? Chen Fong, you raised a good daughter. Kidnapping our Lu family's grandson, she wants to go to heaven. Tell her to come out. We won't leave until she brings the child back. She yelled and tried to rush inside. Lu Ming stood aside, putting on a heartbroken look, and began to morally blackmail me. Mom, let Lin Shi come out, let's talk it over. There's no such thing as an overnight feud between husband and wife, right? For the sake of the child, you can't be so willful. The child needs a complete family, needs a father. A complete family? I held my child and walked out from behind my mother. My face was still pale from postpartum weakness, but my eyes were devoid of any warmth, cold as ice. I looked coldly at Lu Ming's hypocritical face. Home? When you were out with friends singing karaoke late at night, saying you were enjoying long-lost freedom, did you ever think of home? When you ignored my suffering during my confinement and coldly said, whoever gave birth should take care of the child, did you ever consider this a home? Lu Ming, put your hand on your heart and ask yourself, from the time I was pregnant until I gave birth, did you fulfill even one day of a father's responsibility? My voice wasn't loud, but every word was clear, every sentence pierced his heart. Lu Ming's face turned red and then white, rendered speechless by my words. Seeing this, Lu's mother became even more agitated. You ungrateful woman. Our Lu Ming is so busy and works so hard, all for this family. You don't appreciate him and are just here causing trouble. For this family? I scoffed and directly took out a document from behind me, throwing it in front of them. It was a copy of the child's household registration book that I had prepared long ago. Look carefully. The child's registration is now under my mother's name, at my parents' home. Legally speaking, she now has the surname Lin, and has absolutely nothing to do with your Lu family. As for custody, we'll see you in court. That thin piece of paper was like a resounding slap in the face, hitting Lu Ming and his mother hard. The two of them looked at the information on the household registration book, completely stunned. All their shouting, all their self-righteousness, became a joke in the face of this piece of evidence. Lu Ming's face instantly turned liver-colored. Driven by anger and shame, he finally tore off all pretenses, revealing his ferocious side to me for the first time. Lin Shi! Are you crazy? Are you trying to ruin our family by doing this? He roared at me, his spittle almost hitting my face. I just looked at him coldly, my eyes filled with contempt and mockery. The family was destroyed by you a long time ago. I'm just clearing it out of the ruins. Seeing that things were about to get out of control, my mother calmly took out her phone and dialed 110. Hello, police station? Someone is causing trouble at my door, seriously affecting our normal life. Please come and handle it. The police arrived quickly. After understanding the situation and examining the household registration book, the police sternly warned Lu Ming and his mother. Family disputes should be resolved through legal channels. The woman and child currently reside at her parents' home. You have no right to forcibly enter or take the child away. If there are any further acts of harassment, we will take legal action against you. Lu Ming and his mother were invited away by the police in the midst of pointing fingers from the neighbors, looking utterly defeated. As Lu Ming left, his resentful eyes, like knives, scraped across my face. I could feel that he was experiencing the taste of losing control and panic for the first time. He began to realize that I, Lin Shi, was no longer the wife he could manipulate and control at will. Good. This war has only just begun. After sending away those two plagues, Lu Ming and his mother, I immediately contacted attorney Zhang to formally initiate divorce proceedings. My demands are clear: first, divorce. Second, sole custody of the child. Third, Lu Ming must pay child support and compensation for my emotional distress. Lin Shi, the evidence you have is strong, but if you can provide more details about his irresponsibility, your chances of winning will be even greater, Attorney Zhang professionally advised me over the phone. I understand what she means. I want to win this battle, and I want to win beautifully. That night, I registered an anonymous account on a social platform. Without naming names, I simply began to record my postpartum experience in the calmest of words. I wrote about the pain of the cesarean section wound, the heart-wrenching torment of blocked milk ducts, and the desperate helplessness of holding a crying baby alone in the middle of the night. Then, I wrote down the sentence that swirled in my mind like a curse. My husband, when I needed him most, said to me, "Whoever gives birth to the child, raises the child." I didn't use any strong words to accuse, just plain description. But it was precisely this restrained, truthful narrative that, like a dull knife, cut open the scabbed wounds in the hearts of countless women with similar experiences. Less than an hour after the post was published, the comments below exploded. "Oh my God, isn't this me? My husband said the same thing during my confinement period. I felt like dying at the time. Hugs, sister." A man's behavior when his wife gives birth is a reflection of who he will be for the rest of his life. If you see it clearly, run. Whoever gives birth to the child, raises the child. This sentence is simply the top one of contemporary scumbag sayings. A man who says this doesn't deserve to be a father, let alone a husband. Sister, collect evidence and get a divorce quickly. Are you keeping this kind of man for the new year? An overwhelming wave of empathy and support washed over me. Looking at those warm comments, I felt for the first time that I was not alone in this battle. Public opinion began to quietly ferment. A few days later, Lu Ming began to notice something was off at the company. His colleagues looked at him strangely, whispering and deliberately avoiding him. Soon, rumors reached his ears. "Did you hear? Our manager Lu seems to have kicked his wife and child out of the house. More than that, I heard that his wife is still in her confinement period, and he's out partying every day, telling her to take care of the child herself, not caring at all." Really? That's too scummy. He usually looks so decent. Lu Ming is an extremely image-conscious person, and these rumors were more painful to him than a beating. His career and reputation began to be substantially affected. He couldn't sit still any longer. He contacted me through our mutual friends, hoping to resolve things privately. My friend cautiously conveyed his meaning on WeChat. "CC, Lu Ming said he knows he was wrong. He's willing to give you a sum of money to bring the child back. What do you think?" A sum of money? Looking at these 3 words, I let out a cold laugh. He still doesn't get it. He thinks money can solve everything, thinks everything I've done is just for money. I directly asked Zhang lawyer to reply to that friend. "Tell Lu Ming, I reject any form of private settlement. Everything will wait for the court summons. In addition, I demand that he issue a public apology for the harm he has caused me." Lu Ming's parents learned that their son was being criticized at the company and that his future might be affected, and they completely panicked. They stopped pretending and tore off their masks, running to my parents' house to point at my mother's nose and call me a venomous snake, saying I was ruining Lu Ming's life. This time, my mother didn't even let them in the door. She just calmly pressed the record button on her phone through the door. Every word you say now will be submitted to the court as evidence. If you dare to come and harass us again, I will immediately call the police and expose your behavior to the media. Lu's mother's shrewish yelling instantly died down after hearing the words recording in media. They probably didn't expect that a usually gentle and polite retired teacher could have such a tough side. The pressure of internal and external difficulties was like two huge mountains, making Lu Ming unable to breathe. He began to suffer from insomnia all night long, made frequent mistakes at work, and was even called into the office by his direct leader for a talk, subtly telling him to take care of family matters as soon as possible so as not to affect the company's image. For the first time, he tasted what it was like to be overwhelmed and deserted by everyone. I heard about his plight from a friend, and my heart was unmoved. This is just an appetizer. The real feast is yet to come. The pre-divorce mediation was arranged in a small mediation room. I arrived early with my child and my mother. Lu Ming and his lawyer arrived right on time. I hadn't seen him in a few days, and he looked much more haggard, with heavy dark circles under his eyes, and his once spirited appearance was gone. When he saw me, his eyes were complex, with resentment, unwillingness, and a hint of regret that I couldn't understand. But I knew it wasn't real repentance. It was just the unwilling struggle of a gambler after losing all his chips. The mediator was a kind middle-aged woman. She tried to ease the atmosphere. You're a couple, isn't there anything you can't say nicely? The child is still so young. Lu Ming's lawyer immediately took over, putting on a "we are very sincere" posture. Judge, to express his sincerity, my client is willing to pay a considerable amount of child support, and we are requesting joint custody. Mr. Lu Ming, as a father, loves his child very much and hopes to participate in the child's growth. Love the child? I sneered and pushed a stack of documents in front of the mediator. Judge, take a look at these. These are the evidences I had lawyer Zhang prepare. The first is Lu Ming's spending records during my postpartum period. KTV, bars, high-end restaurants, game top-ups. Not a single penny was spent on me and the child. The second is his ambiguous chat logs with several different women. Although there's no concrete evidence of infidelity, those words like baby and miss you are enough to prove that while his wife was giving birth to his child, going through hell and back, his heart had already flown to the ends of the earth. The third, and most damning, is a few recordings I secretly made of him speaking coldly to me. Lu Ming's face turned pale the moment he saw those chat log screenshots and spending statements. He probably never dreamed that I, the housewife in his eyes, would be so meticulous, having prepared this big gift for him long ago. These are just minor frictions between husband and wife. Just joking around with friends. He defended himself incoherently, trying to muddle through. I ignored his sophistry and calmly looked at the mediator, speaking up myself. My voice wasn't loud, but it was like a scalpel, precisely cutting open his hypocritical mask. Judge, while I was lying on the delivery bed, in so much pain from my wound that I couldn't sleep at night, he was out partying all night with friends. When my milk ducts were blocked and I had a high fever, reaching 39 degrees Celsius, and I called him begging him to come back and take me to the hospital, he said he was with important clients and told me to take a taxi myself. And that sentence of his, "Whoever gives birth to the child takes care of the child," was like a knife that completely killed all my expectations of him, of this marriage. I paused, my gaze shooting directly at Lu Ming. I just want to ask one question. From the time the child was born until now, how many times has he held the child? How many diapers has he changed? How many times has he made formula? He doesn't even know which formula the child is allergic to. What qualifications does such a father have to talk about joint custody? Every word of mine was like a heavy hammer, hitting Lu Ming's heart hard. He was forced back step by me, his emotions completely out of control. Lin Shi! You poisonous woman! You're too scheming! You've been plotting against me from the beginning. He pointed at my nose and cursed in front of the judge and lawyers, exposing his truest, most selfish and narrow-minded nature. The mediator frowned tightly, his eyes filled with disappointment as he looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's lawyer immediately tried to salvage the situation, seeing that things were not going well. Judge, my client is also just anxious. Moreover, we have reason to suspect that Ms. Lin Shi may have postpartum depression and is emotionally unstable. We believe that having her solely care for the child is not conducive to the child's growth. This was their last, and most vicious, move. Trying to use the label of postpartum depression to deprive me of my qualifications as a mother. I looked at him coldly, taking out another document from my bag. This is the health certificate I just got from the Municipal Mental Health Center yesterday. The doctor clearly diagnosed that I am in good mental condition, emotionally stable, and fully capable of raising a child. I knew they would pull this trick. I had already thought of all the paths they could take, and then, I blocked them off one by one. Lu Ming and his lawyers' faces turned completely gray. Mediation ended in failure. As I walked out of the mediation room, Lu Ming glared at me with a venomous look that seemed to want to devour me. But I didn't even bother to give him a glance. Holding my child, I walked past him without looking sideways. I know his desire for revenge has been completely ignited. Next, he will use any means necessary. But so what? What can he, a man without armor, fight me with? I am already fearless. On the eve of the trial, Lu Ming started his counterattack as expected. He probably spent money hiring a PR team, and some guiding comments began to appear online, trying to shape me into a vicious woman who would do anything for money and cruelly abandon her husband and children. My anonymous postpartum experience post was also dug up by them. They started stirring up trouble in the comment section, saying that I was making a mountain out of a molehill, being emotionally unstable after childbirth, and deliberately exaggerating in order to get more property in the divorce. For a time, the online atmosphere began to become complicated. Although most netizens still supported me, those harsh questions were still buzzing like flies. Lu Ming thought that he could win back around with this. He was too naive. He underestimated the power of the internet, and even more underestimated the determination of women to help each other. Just when his team was complacent, a shocking bombshell exploded online. A netizen with the ID Forgotten Corner suddenly published a long article, directly naming Lu Ming and revealing her past with him. She is Lu Ming's ex-girlfriend. In the long article, she described in detail how Lu Ming mentally controlled and PUA'd her, how he coaxed her with sweet words after she became accidentally pregnant, and then coldly and ruthlessly forced her to have an abortion alone. After the surgery, Lu Ming ignored her under the pretext of we are still young and must focus on our careers, and eventually abandoned her. The details she wrote, the words Lu Ming said, were strikingly similar to my experience. He said, "Baby, I love you, but it's really not the right time for us to have a baby right now." He said, "Be a good girl and listen to me, and I will definitely give you a grand wedding in the future." He said, "It's just a surgery, don't be so pretentious." This tearful accusation, like a heavy bomb, instantly detonated the entire internet. If my previous post only revealed a corner of Lu Ming's hypocritical mask, then his ex-girlfriend's revelation directly nailed him to the pillar of shame as a scumbag of the century. The public opinion completely reversed, and all the previous voices of doubt about me were drowned out by the tide of anger. Netizens even spontaneously dug up Lu Ming's personal information, his company, his position. "So he's a manager at XX company, huh?" How can someone with such character be in management? Boycott. We must boycott. We will never cooperate with this kind of company. Sisters, attack. Go to their company's official website and leave messages demanding the dismissal of this scumbag. The matter completely blew up. Lu Ming's company is a publicly listed company that places great emphasis on its corporate image. Upon learning of this matter, senior management immediately convened an emergency meeting. In order to quell public opinion and protect the company's reputation, they made a decisive decision: suspend Lu Ming from all duties and demand that he immediately resolve his personal disputes, otherwise, the company would unilaterally terminate his labor contract. This completely struck Lu Ming's vital spot. His career is the capital he is most proud of, the foundation of his arrogance and selfishness. Now, this foundation is about to be uprooted. He completely panicked. That night, he actually found my parents' house. He didn't dare to be as arrogant as last time, just standing downstairs, calling my mother's phone over and over again. My mother didn't answer. Then he started sending me messages, through a backup account that I hadn't blacklisted. The tone was no longer threatening and questioning, but with a hint of humble pleading. Lin Shi, I was wrong, I was really wrong, can you forgive me just this once? Please withdraw the lawsuit, I beg you. As long as you are willing to withdraw the lawsuit and clarify for me online, I will give you whatever you want. My job is about to be gone, Lin Shi, you can't do this to me, we were husband and wife after all. Looking at those words, my heart was ice cold. Withdraw the lawsuit? Clarify? Even now, he is still only thinking about himself, his job, his face. I walked out onto the balcony, looking coldly at the small and pathetic figure downstairs from a distance of a dozen floors. He was pacing anxiously, constantly making phone calls. I picked up my phone and replied with just one sentence. Remember what you said to me at the maternity center? After the message was sent, the figure downstairs instantly froze. He slowly raised his head, as if trying to find my shadow in the myriad of lights. I didn't look at him anymore and turned back into the room. I will not withdraw the lawsuit, nor will I clarify. Because every word I said is the truth. I am not God, I don't understand forgiveness. All I know is that I want him to taste the pain and despair he once brought me, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. He must swallow the bitterest fruit of the seeds he planted himself. On the day the divorce case officially opened, the courthouse entrance was crowded with reporters from various media outlets. This social event triggered by a family dispute has become the focus of public attention. Wearing a plain long dress, I walked calmly into the courtroom with my sleeping child in my arms, accompanied by my mother and attorney Zhang. Flashes of light flashed wildly on my face, but I didn't dodge at all. I want everyone to see that I am not a resentful woman hiding in the shadows, but a mother fighting for her rights and the rights of her child. In the plaintiff's seat, I sat up straight. Across from me, in the defendant's seat, Lu Ming looked utterly defeated. His face was gaunt, his beard was unshaven, his once meticulously styled hair was a mess, his eyes darted around, unable to meet mine. The courtroom was packed. The judge banged the gavel, and the trial officially began. Attorney Zhang stood up and began her statement with clarity and precision. She presented all the evidence we had prepared, one by one. Lu Ming's dereliction of duty in the marriage, his emotional abuse towards me, his neglect of the child. Every single instance was exposed in court. Lu Ming's lawyer was still making a last-ditch effort, trying to attribute everything to normal marital conflicts and repeatedly emphasizing Lu Ming's willingness to pay a high amount of alimony to compensate. Just as he was rambling on, I suddenly raised my hand. Judge, I request to play a recording in court. The judge agreed. I handed my phone to the court clerk, and the entire courtroom fell silent in an instant. The next second, Lu Ming's familiar yet grating voice echoed clearly through the speakers, reverberating in every corner of the courtroom. It was a recording of him talking to a friend after he left the postpartum center. I happened to be outside the door at the time and, on a whim, pressed the record button. In the recording, his tone was full of disdain and annoyance. "Don't even mention it, it's so annoying, all she does is cry all day, it's driving me crazy." Postpartum depression? I think she's just being dramatic. Women these days are too pampered. Our mother's generation went back to work the day after giving birth, there weren't so many problems. Me? Why should I care about her? Whoever gives birth to the child takes care of it, that's just the way it is. I'm already working hard enough to make money to support the family, do I have to come home and take care of them both? No way. The recording finished playing. The courtroom was deathly silent, followed by an uncontrollable uproar. Everyone's eyes, like sharp swords, were directed towards Lu Ming in the defendant's seat. His face had turned ashen, and his body was shaking like a leaf. He probably never dreamed that I would have held on to such a trump card. These were his own words, his most genuine, most ugly inner monologue. I stood up, looking calmly at the judge, and also at everyone in the gallery. This recording was made in my most desperate, most helpless moment, with the last ounce of strength I had left. It is more than just a piece of evidence. It is the sound of my heart breaking, and it is also the verdict he delivered to me and to this innocent child. My voice was trembling, but my eyes were incredibly firm. The judge glanced sternly at Lu Ming, whose face was ashen, and banged the gavel heavily. Now, this court delivers its verdict. 1. The court grants the divorce between the plaintiff, Lin Shi, and the defendant, Lu Ming. 2. The daughter born out of wedlock shall be solely raised by the plaintiff, Lin Shi, and the defendant, Lu Ming, shall pay child support monthly from the effective date of the judgment until the child reaches the age of 18. 3. The defendant, Lu Ming, shall pay the plaintiff, Lin Shi, a one-time compensation for emotional distress. When the judge announced the final verdict, Lu Ming completely broke down. He was like a mad beast, suddenly rising from the defendant's seat and attempting to rush towards me. "Lin Shi! You ruined me! I won't let you get away with this." 2 bailiffs quickly stepped forward, pinning him down and dragging him out of the courtroom. I held the still sleeping child in my arms, slowly stood up, and walked towards the exit of the courtroom. Pushing open the heavy door, I was greeted by the bright sunshine. The sunshine shone on me and my child, warm and comforting. I took a long, deep breath. I felt the huge rock that had been weighing on my chest for months finally being completely removed. I was free. I knew this wasn't the end. This was the real beginning for me and my child. After losing the lawsuit, coupled with the previous scandal, Lu Ming was ruthlessly terminated from his employment contract by the company. He lost the job he valued most, the considerable income, and the social status on which he relied. The friends who used to revolve around him disappeared without a trace overnight. He fell hard from the clouds into the mud. He began to drink heavily every day, using alcohol to numb himself. In a drunken late night, he finally remembered me, remembered how good I had been to him, and remembered the home he had personally destroyed. He started sending me apology messages frantically, his words sincere and full of regret. He even ran to the bottom of my parents' building, stood in the cold wind all night, begging to see me, asking me to give him a chance to make amends. My mother looked at the desolate figure outside the window, feeling a little sympathetic. She, why don't you let him come up for a while?" I shook my head, did not open the door, nor did I reply to any of his messages. I knew him too well. This so-called remorse was nothing more than the cheap despair and unwillingness of a gambler who had lost all his chips after losing everything. It had nothing to do with love, nothing to do with repentance. He simply couldn't accept the huge gap between being a successful person and being a failure. If he were still the spirited manager Lou today, he would never have remembered me, the old wife he had abandoned. Seeing that I was unmoved, he turned his attention to my mother. He contacted my mother in various ways, saying that he was willing to give up all his property, even leave with nothing, just to see the child, asking me to forgive him. My mother relayed his words to me. I was feeding the child complimentary food, and upon hearing this, the spoon in my hand paused for a moment, then resumed its steady rhythm. Without even looking up, I simply said to my mother, "Mom, please relay a sentence to him for me." The 4 words he once said to me, I will now return to him, unchanged. My mom was stunned for a moment, then understood what I meant. She picked up the phone, dialed Lu Ming's number, and said only 4 words. "You are out." On the other end of the phone, there was a long silence. Then, a suppressed, desperate sob came. He finally understood. What I gave him was never a multiple-choice question, but a notification. From the moment he sentenced me to death, he had been completely removed from my life. There was no room for change. I started my new life. I returned to the design industry that I had been away from for a long time. With my solid professional foundation and accumulated connections, I quickly gained a firm foothold in a well-known design company. During the day, I fought my way through the workplace. At night, I went home to build blocks and tell stories with my daughter. My life was busy, fulfilling, and full of sunshine and hope. My story was widely spread on some women's forums as a model of textbook-style counterattack. I received many private messages from strangers who confided in me and asked for my help. I realized that there were so many women experiencing similar difficulties as I was. I started using my spare time to provide them with help and advice within my capabilities. I told them that marriage is not the entirety of a woman's life, and children are not shackles that bind us. True freedom is inner strength and economic independence. Looking at myself in the mirror, confident and composed again, I knew that Lin Shi, who cried desperately during her confinement period, was dead. The current me is a brand new Lin Shi, living for myself. With my mother's careful care, my child grew up chubby, lively, and cute. She would call mommy in a soft voice and would run into my arms with her short legs when I got home from work. She is my armor and my weakness, the meaning of all my efforts. My career is also thriving. With an excellent design proposal, I won the company's annual award and also won an important promotion opportunity for myself. I used the bonus and savings to start my own design studio. Several like-minded old colleagues also resigned and joined my team. We fought together, stayed up all night together, and undertook many influential large projects. The studio's reputation gradually spread in the industry. Lu Ming's parents had stubbornly come to make trouble a few more times, trying to pester me with the child. I didn't give them any more chances, directly called the police, and applied to the court for a personal safety protection order. Faced with the white and black of the law, they finally completely stopped. My life is fulfilling and meaningful. I am no longer the woman who revolved around her family and husband. I have my own career, my own friends, and my own life. I became independent, confident, and radiated light. Occasionally, I would see news about Lu Ming in the corner of some social news. I heard that after losing his job, he became depressed, developed a gambling habit, and incurred a large debt. The once well-dressed manager Lu has completely fallen to the bottom of society, relying on odd jobs and dodging debts to survive. I felt nothing upon hearing this news. Pity his misfortune? Be angry at his unwillingness to strive? No. I only felt that it was the ending he deserved. He brought it upon himself. My daughter is growing up day by day and has begun to curiously ask me, "Mom, where's my dad?" I won't lie to her, nor will I instill hatred in her. I will kneel down, hug her, and calmly tell her, "Sweetheart, Daddy and Mommy separated for some reasons. He has his own life, but that doesn't mean you are not loved. Mommy will give you double, no, countless times the love." The child nodded as if she understood, nestling in my arms. At an industry conference, I met a man. He is a partner in a well-known architectural firm, mature, stable, and his eyes are full of appreciation and respect when he looks at me. We talked about design, the future, life, and enjoyed each other's company. He would listen carefully to my every idea and sincerely praise me when I talked about my daughter and career. He made me realize that a man's respect for a woman is engraved in his bones, not just spoken. I didn't immediately jump into a new relationship, but I knew that my heart had begun to thaw. I deserve a better future and a healthy, mutually beneficial love. Years later, my design studio has become well known in the industry, and I have also become known as General Manager Lin by others. My daughter is in elementary school, smart and articulate, and is a small literary backbone in the class. And I and that mature and stable man, Mr. Joe, have been in a stable relationship for 2 years. He treats me and my daughter as his own. He proposed to me. There was no grand spectacle, just on a very ordinary weekend, he personally cooked a table of my favorite dishes, and then took out a simply designed ring. He knelt on one knee, his eyes sincere. "I don't want to say those flowery vows, I just want to use the rest of my life to make you and your child live happily and peacefully. Are you willing to give me this chance?" I looked at him, my eyes were wet, and I nodded with a smile. On the eve of the wedding, I received a letter from the court. Not to me, but a notification sent to my studio. Lu Ming was arrested and imprisoned for contract fraud, and sentenced to 10 years for multiple crimes. Looking at the photo of him in handcuffs, his face gaunt, on the notification, I felt no ripple in my heart. I just sighed softly, and then casually threw the paper into the shredder. His life, his ending, has nothing to do with me anymore. My wedding was not chosen in a star-rated hotel, but in the courtyard of my parents' home. The courtyard was set up with beautiful flower sheds, and hung full of starlights that my daughter and I liked. My mother, dressed in a festive cheongsam, looked at me with a face full of joy. My daughter, wearing a pure white tulle dress, was my flower girl. Mr. Joe, holding my hand, exchanged rings with me amidst the blessings of all our relatives and friends. I gave an impromptu speech at the wedding. Today, standing here, the first person I want to thank is my mother. It was she who gave me a home in my darkest hour and gave me the courage to stand up again. I also want to thank those experiences that once caused me pain. It was they that made me see the truth of life, and also taught me how to love myself, and how to become strong. Finally, I want to say to my husband, thank you for making me believe that love is not bondage, not demanding, but respect, understanding, and mutual success. I looked at the relatives and friends below the stage, at my beloved mother and daughter, my eyes filled with gratitude and happiness. I know that those past pains have completely become the medals of my life. My child and I, the person I love, will, from this moment on, turn over to a brand new chapter. That chapter is filled with sunshine, warmth, and love. True strength is never the pleasure of revenge. But, after experiencing storms, still being able to calmly let go of the past, and then, bravely, without looking back, moving towards a new life that belongs to me.